When we're looking at our aggregate supply curve, we're looking at the relationship between the quantity of real GDP supplied, how much we're going to produce as a nation, and the price level. So it's going to slope upwards in the short run because as higher prices, we're going to have greater revenue for the firm. So when revenue increases but costs remain the same, the firms are going to want to produce and supply more of their goods and services. So as price level increases, the quantity of real GDP supplied increases, but the aggregate supply curve is not going to shift. So our aggregate supply curve in the short run is going to be upward sloping. Now, the reason for this is something called sticky prices. So in the short run, the things that we use to produce things tend to be what we call sticky. That means they don't tend to change in the short run. So wages are typically fixed in the short run. So you may have an annual contract where you get a raise every year. So in the short run, the firm doesn't have to pay you more. Okay, and then input prices typically are also fixed in the short run. So firms have contracts for supplies at a certain price. So their input prices, the wages and the materials, are typically fixed in the short run, but as the price level goes up, they can charge more for their prices, and then your output prices are increasing, your input prices are staying the same, so your profits increase. Okay, so we can see that if something else changes, we're going to see a shift in the short run aggregate supply curve. So the things that would cause the aggregate supply curve to shift would be input prices and money wage rates. Okay, so if, for example, the minimum wage increased, that's going to cost the firm more to produce everything, so the aggregate supply curve is going to shift to the left. So everything that's decreasing goes to the left. If, say, the price of oil goes down, the price of oil sort of affects everything because everything needs to be transported. So if the price of oil goes down, the aggregate supply curve is going to shift to the right. Okay, now in the long run, we're going to say our long run aggregate supply curve is vertical, and it's going to be vertical at potential GDP. Or if you remember from our unemployment section, it's going to be vertical at full employment. Potential GDP and full employment are the same thing. Okay, so how can potential GDP change? It can change if we have more physical capital, that's machines, tools, equipment, more human capital, which is knowledge and skills, talents of labor, better technology, and also if we have higher quantities of labor, so that it goes along with immigration. So if we allow more immigration, then we would see an increase in potential GDP, which would shift the long run aggregate supply curve to the right. Okay, now if the price level changes, the long run aggregate supply curve does not shift. Okay, it's not going to change if price level changes, only if potential GDP changes.